this episode of Monster Kid Radio with the song The Incredible Hip Shaker. It's from the album This Is Boss by the Vancouver, BC surf band, the Hang Ten Hangmen. They gave us permission to play this song on Monster Kid Radio. Go check them out when you're done listening to this episode at thehangtenhangmen.bandcamp.com. Big thanks to them for letting us play their music here on the show, and of course I'll play this song in its entirety at the end of this episode, which happens to be episode number 563 of the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema of yesteryear. This is Monster Kid Radio. I am your writer, host, producer, Derek M. Cook, and we have got the return of Dominique Lamssies on this week's episode of the podcast. It has been way too long since I've spent any amount of time with her, and it's been even longer since we've had her on the podcast. And here's the cool thing. As soon as we got done, she looks at me and she says, I really miss this. I really miss recording with you and, well, somebody else. So we hope to have her on the show again here very soon. But in the meantime, we're going to talk about a movie that evokes quite the reaction from Miss Dominique. Mesa of Lost Women. Yeah, I know, but she makes some really good points, and I went into the conversation feeling one way and came out of the conversation feeling a completely different way. For the better. And it's just really interesting to listen to somebody who is so passionate about, well, how this movie works. And I think you're going to enjoy the conversation as well. And of course, we kind of derail a little bit because Dominique and I are old friends, and that's what happens when old friends get together and start talking about monster movies. Also in this episode, speaking of old friends, Mark Matzke's back with another Beta Capsule review. We are into Ultra 7 right now. 7. Oh man, I am loving Ultra 7 more and more with each episode I rewatch. I think it's starting to become my second favorite Ultraman series of all time, right behind Ultraman 80. And another old friend, Kenny. He's got another look at Famous Monsters of Filmland. You know what I love about Monster Kid Radio? That I consider all of you friends. So when I say I had a friend send me an email, I'm speaking the truth. I mean it. We had an email come in, and we're going to get into that in this week's mail call right about now.
It's time.
It's time?
Yes, it's time.
It's time for Monster Kid Radio Mail Call.
This email came in with the subject heading, Spider Baby. This is an episode that we did not too long ago here on the show. Go check it out in the archives at monsterkidradio.net. The email reads, great show on one of my faves. Not too long ago, I won a contest on the website Terror of the Daves with an in-depth review on this very movie. You may find it of interest. Meanwhile, keep up your good work. Love the podcast. This email comes in from Mark S., and I couldn't agree more. Spider Baby is just so cool. It is also becoming one of my favorite Lon Chaney films. His performance in this evokes so much of his greatest hits. You know, Lenny from Of Mice and Men, a little bit of Lawrence Talbot in there from The Wolfman, just all sorts of really good stuff here. It's a multi-layered, multifaceted performance, and everything else in the movie is pretty quirky and cool too. But to me, it's a Chaney vehicle through and through, and that's what makes me come back to this movie over and over and over again. Terror of the Daves is a cool website. Everybody should check that out if you have an opportunity to do so. It's a blog that I've been following off and on for years. And one of the Daves on that is a huge Svengoolie fan. So if you want to know anything about Svengoolie, just check out the Terror of the Daves website. Terror of the Daves can be found at terrordaves.com. Thank you for writing in. If you want to write in like Mark, or if you have anything you want to share about Monster Kid stuff happening in your neck of the woods, or you want to comment on a previous episode, there's a couple of different ways you can get a hold of us. Monsters in the Machine, do your job and let the folks know how to get a hold of us.
You can call and leave a voicemail for Monster Kid Radio at 503-810-5MKR. That's 503-810-5657.
Or you can send an email to the podcast. monsterkidradio@gmail.com is the email address. That's monsterkidradio@gmail.com.
American General Pictures imprisons you in a bloody web of terror. Spider Baby has the seductive innocence of Lolita and the savage hunger of a black widow. Spider Baby will give you nightmares forever. No man that loves her lives to love another. Her sweet kisses engulf you in a bloody web of horror. Spider Baby will thrill you, then kill you. Starring Spider Baby and Lon Chaney. For the horror thrill of your life, see Spider Baby from American General Pictures.
I am Dr. Lee Cushing. Welcome to my Chamber of Horrors.
Dr. Cushing's Chamber of Horrors is a monster rally novel in the tradition of the classic Universal and Hammer horror film. It's written by Stephen D. Sullivan, the award-winning author of White Zombie, Daikaiju Attack, Manos: The Hands of Fate, and one of the creators of the original Chill role-playing game.
This book recreates the thrills of the classic monster versus monster film. We've got vampires, werewolves, mummies, psychic twins, scheming madmen, and plenty of unexpected chills.
Now you can get Dr. Cushing's Chamber of Horrors in print, or for Kindle at Amazon.com and other fine retailers. Coming soon in other ebook formats. Find out more at CushingHorrors.com or SDSullivan.com, and support Steve's work through Patreon at HeySteve.com.
I do hope you've enjoyed your visit. Please come again, and remember, the chamber is always waiting for its next victim.
Two all-color, all-action hits. Here are the 7 wonders of the world rolled into one fantastic adventure. Frankenstein, born again to rule in terror, a monster unleashed to conquer all who stand in his destructive path. Frankenstein Conquers the World stars Nick Adams as the American scientist versus Frankenstein incarnate with the strength of 1,000 men, a phenomenon such as never seen before. See Frankenstein Conquers the World, astounding on the giant screen, also on the same program. Tarzan, man of the jungle, with only a lion, a leopard, and a chimp as his army. Can they conquer the hired killers of the dealer in death? Cy Weintraub presents Tarzan and the Valley of Gold, with Mike Henry and Nancy Kovac in Panavision and color from American International Pictures.
Live from the Land of Light in Nebula M78, home of the mighty Ultra Heroes, it's Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review. Space Prisoner 303 has landed on Earth with a deadly secret in the 7th episode of Ultra 7. Arriving in a miniature flying saucer, an unidentified monster goes on a homicidal rampage, eliminating a hunting party and workers and patrons at the Mitsuya Mountain Pass gas station. Meanwhile, Terrestrial Defense Force agent Mizuno, an expert at decrypting rogue signals, intercepts a high-frequency message aboard Space Station V3. He rockets down to Far East headquarters to deliver the chilling news in person. An alien murderer from planet Curacao escaped from prison and headed to Earth. The alien criminal, who feeds on gasoline, is discovered in a residential garage and menaces a family in their home before fleeing the Ultra Guard. There's a method to the alien's madness, however. He doubles back to abduct Anne, using her to gain access to the TDF base and the beta section of the Ultra Hawk. The Ultra Guard takes off in pursuit, hoping to recombine the Ultra Hawk in midair. Their plan works, but when the Curacao alien sets fire to the ship, the beta section is ejected to crash land, with the alien and Dan Moriboshi inside. Space Prisoner 303 is an intense, violent entry in the series, with the sequence in the family home especially nerve-wracking. The concept of an alien serial killer is an unnerving twist. It hasn't come to take over, it's just here to kill. The only thing missing from this episode of Ultra 7 is Ultra 7. In his Ultra form, he's on screen for less than 10 seconds, just enough time to transform, fly, and land. Those who watch the show specifically for kaiju combat will no doubt be disappointed, but Ultra 7 is emerging as a judicious warrior. If he can win without throwing a punch, so be it. And at the moment, that strikes me as a truly heroic quality. For Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review, this is Mark Matzke reporting.
Can the most cunning, depraved, ruthless killer in all the world's history kill again after he dies?
The hands of the Ripper. Jack the Ripper live again as his fiendish daughter inherits his lust for murder and revenge to kill again.
And again.
And again.
In Hands of the Ripper.
Gory terror roams the streets as the hands of the Ripper leave a baffling trail of blood and a murderous trail of helpless victims behind.
When the hands of the Ripper strike, you feel the grip of heart-stopping terror on your throat.
It takes nerves of steel to face the hands of the Ripper. Can you?
Rated R, under 17, not admitted without parent.
Why, what are you looking for under a tombstone in broad daylight? Shh! You'll scare her away. Scare her away? Who? What? What can you scare away here in a cemetery?
My ghoul friend. She's the ghost in the invisible bikini.
What are you putting me on? Herbie, I know you're broad-minded, but this is ridiculous.
No, I'm serious. And you should see her since she traded her bedsheet for a bikini.
Well, you must enjoy looking around for a real nothing broad.
It's really just that American International is inviting everyone out to the graveyard for a blood-curdling blast with the ghost in the invisible bikini to see Tommy Kirk, Deborah Wally, Aaron Kincaid, Harvey Lembeck, and Jesse White with Nancy Sinatra, and guest stars Basil Rathbone, Boris Karloff, and Susan Hart in The Ghost in the Invisible Bikini in Path 8 color and Panavision.
Now, you would have to get commercial. Now you scared her away.
If you've seen all the other horror films, this is for you. More horror, more screams, and more fright than your wildest nightmares in Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. An all-new Super Shocker filmed in Chillerama 70mm and gory color. Now meet the Wolf Monster, a slashing, inhuman creature who prowls by night for new victims. Its terror beyond your most fearsome imagination as vampires, using the powers of witchcraft, summon the hideous wolf monster. Don't miss Frankenstein's Bloody Terror. It's a super shock spectacle of hideous horror in Chillerama 70 and gory color. Rated GP.
Hello there, Monster Kid Radioheads. This is Kenny with a look at Famous Monsters of Filmland.
Have you ever been by a girl like this?
Today's film, Mesa of Lost Women, was apparently too high class and sophisticated for FM's young audience, so it was never featured. So I am going to continue the series of Famous Monsters, Low-Tech Social Media. Today's edition is called Low-Tech Opinion Forum. Today's social media is notorious for bringing out the best and worst of everyone as we share our opinions on just about everything. From its early days and throughout its long run, FM never shied away from negative opinions from non-fans of the magazine. Dissenters would dare Foray to run their insulting comments, and he would oblige, usually with a snappy defense. Today we are going to hear one of the first examples of this from issue 4 from August of 1959. I have again enlisted friends to help. Joey plays publisher James Warren, and Matthew returns as Uncle Foray. I really needed them this time because I know I would have had a long struggle with the word quantitative, Oh, never mind. I struggle with some of their acting skills, but my buddies do a good job with them big words. Here we go.
Kids, this is the only small portion of the whole issue that probably won't interest you. It's addressed to parents and educators. Statement from publisher, Mr. William Houghton, a high school teacher of Jaffrey, New Hampshire, takes my editor to task for producing insidious trash, recommends he search his conscience instead of his pocketbook before continuing to contribute to the moral degradation of our culture. While appreciating Mr. Houghton's sincere concern with molding the minds and mores of modern youth, I feel he is misguided regarding famous monsters as a menacing factor in the mental health of present and future America. The salary I pay my altruistic editor is scarcely enough to influence him to abandon the principles of a lifetime, and Forrest Ackerman replies,
If famous monsters had existed when I was 8 years old, I'm sure my dearly beloved grandmother, and she was the last of the angels, would have bought it for me regularly. Among my fondest memories of her are those of her reading Ghost Stories magazine to me and taking me, my grandfather holding my other hand, to the Phantom of the Opera, The Cat and the Canary, etc. Before condemning this magazine, Mr. Houghton, I feel you must prove that Lon Chaney Sr. perverted his life portraying monsters. That Edgar Allan Poe should never have picked up a pen. That Mary Shelley loosed a greater evil on the world than a fictional Frankenstein. That Universal Studios should be ashamed of itself for having built a reputation with films like Dracula and The Mummy. And that Good News Productions, principal producers of religious movies in the USA, had no business forming a sibling organization to produce The Blob, nor a local Hollywood branch of the Lutheran Church to sponsor the filming of Plan 9 from outer space. Quantitatively, a single monster movie must surely influence many times over the number of high school students our magazine does. We but humorously reflect on what already exists in movie monsterdom.
Mr. Houghton, my editor, who is 42 years old, has never smoked or drank in his life, has no police record, is a peace-promoting Esperantist, has received a Hugo, the science fiction field's highest award, is regarded as a hero in the home of Ray Fahrenheit 451 Bradbury, and to cap the climax, was recently invited to lecture on sci-fi and monster movies to the student body of a Los Angeles junior high. The defense rests. James Warren.
That is all for this week's look at Famous Monsters of Filmland. We will have more next time. For MKR, this is Kenny saying adios.
What's happened? The whole town seems deserted.
That monster's on the loose right here in town.
Anybody catch sight of this thing?
Well, a few kids playing in the street said he was 20 feet tall, covered with long hair, and had great big teeth.
Behind these empty streets, these windows shut in fear, lies the strange story of a young girl who knows the secret of the teenage monster. Fascinated by an evil demon, unable to control her sinister desires, she leads the monster to his prey, sacrificing an entire town to his insatiable lust for human life.
I don't like to be stolen from, and I don't like to be laughed at. Oh, but it's not going to happen anymore, because Charles won't let it. He'll kill anybody who does. Even you, I think. Oh.
Joe Martindale came in this morning, lost 6 of his blooded steers last night, and a rider. The steers had their throats torn out, and the rider, Bill Begley, was beat to death. It's that thing again.
I'll meet you back at the office. I'm going to have to go, Ruth. You stay in town. That thing's loose on the range again, not 15 miles from your mine. What was it?
It was that thing. Hairy and horrible. Oh, it was awful.
Sheriff! I saw him, the monster, and he ran away from this barn carrying the girl.
A posse in panic, not knowing what they'll find. Man, beast, or demon from another world, as they pursue the loathsome killing thing they call the teenage monster.
Listen. Do you hear? It's coming back.
turning the screen into a buzzing, crawling, creeping nightmare of terror. This is the son of the original Fly, daring to explore the forbidden science of transmigration that brought horrible death to his father.
You look as if you've just seen a ghost, old man.
It was the Fly.
Fear that will fasten its choking grip on you, as his weird experiments spawn the twisted monstrosities of a living hell. The Rat Man, whose hands and feet are changed to paws. The living corpse who rose from his coffin. And the return of the Fly, seeking revenge with 1,000 eyes. Smashing anything that stands in his way.
Suppose he does come here. What if Philippe does not have the mind of a human, but the murderous brain of the Fly?
Then he will have to be destroyed.
This is Count Dracula, and I'm here to offer you a friendly warning. Derek and his guests often get excited, and occasionally this results in revealing key plot points of the movies they're discussing. You know how the children of the night, monster kids, can get sometimes. So consider yourself warned. And don't come begging to me to kill them for their transgressions afterward. I have more pressing issues to take care of, like that pesky Van Helsing.
Monster Kid Radio listeners, this is a first. I'm actually doing a recording with somebody else in person in my home, in the new apartment in Vancouver. She came up at least an hour ago, and we just spent a lot of time hanging out, chatting, and then I remembered, hey, we need to talk about the Mesa of Lost Women. Aren't you lucky? I'm lucky. I've got Dominique Lamssies here. Dominique, welcome to my home.
Welcome. I just said thank you. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. So
it's been a
while, and life. So hi is my point, and thank you for having me. And Mesa of Lost Women.
Oh boy. and we'll talk about it. I watched it again this morning in preparation of this before I did a recording with somebody else for another podcast. Stay tuned for that. But it's been forever since we've had you on the show. And while we've just done a lot of, good friends catching up, what have you been up to?
Honestly, not too much.
You've been a presence that's been missed in a lot of the community stuff we do.
I miss everybody too.
Yes.
Which thankfully is finished.
Yay.
So, yay.
And you're trying to unload some of the creations you have, right?
Yes. At the Etsy shop, the House of Silent Graves, we are having a sale. Everything is half off. I am doing a cross-country move. And I would like my monsters to find good homes rather than being shoved in a box for the foreseeable future. So stop by, and if you ever wanted a Tingler, now's a great time to do it.
I have my Tingler out. It was one of the first things that I made sure that I had out, not just because you were coming over today, but the Tingler's been out pretty much nonstop. I love that thing. So I'll make sure there's a link in the show notes to her Etsy shop. Go check it out. I highly recommend it, and I know there are a lot of satisfied customers in the MKR audience. So, very cool. So that's where I was getting. I was like, you promote your stuff. Because you also have to promote this movie, Mesa of Lost Women. 1953. And I know we've shown it on the stream in the Monster Kid Movie Club in the past. It's a
couple times.
Yeah. It's in the public domain, which means a lot of the transfers aren't very good. But yeah, it looks good enough to get, kind of. It's weird, man.
Okay, here's the thing about this movie. Having a good transfer of this movie, there's no point. Because it's just, this movie is a waste of a cleanup. I adore this movie. I do. But it's one of those movies where you keep it grungy. You do. Because it's just that kind of movie. It is just that kind of movie.
And I'm going to bring up a movie that you don't like, but it's kind of like when I watch Manos, the Hands of Fate, the Blu-ray. It feels a little wrong. I mean, I'm glad to have a great picture and great sound. It's great. It feels a little wrong to me, not necessarily because of the movie quality, but because of I mean, the fact that we've only seen it one particular way.
Mhm.
This movie may take on a weird, even more alien, what's the word I'm looking for, aesthetic.
Yeah.
If it did get cleaned up, if it did have the audio worked on. And now just kind of for fun, I kind of want to do it just to see, but.
Well, see, because one of the reasons I like this movie, and we can talk about it later, is the fact that it is a nightmare logic thing.
It makes very little sense.
No, it's there's not making sense, and there's nightmare logic.
Okay.
And nightmare logic is, I mean, the masterclass in nightmare logic is Carnival of Souls.
Good point.
But the thing is, because the Carnival of Souls was one of those movies where I thought, oh, it should stay grungy because, you know, it should stay grungy. And then they cleaned it up when they did the Criterion release. And it does actually benefit from that. There's so many details that you never knew you noticed and all this kind of stuff. So I could be wrong. I mean, you might be right. We could clean this up, and especially the desert, because at the scenes in the desert.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I could see that. I can't imagine the lab benefiting from us being able to see what was really there, because I have a feeling the fact that you couldn't make out a lot of details benefited the production design there.
Yeah. Yeah. I got the Batman 66 box set.
Yeah.
After they cleaned it up.
Okay.
And there's certain things that suffer, like close-ups of the Joker.
Oh, I bet his mustache pops.
Yes, it does. And you're like, oh, it should be a little grungy so it's not as noticeable.
Well, you know, when like War of the Worlds, man, they know if you see the wires, you know?
Yeah.
But, I don't know.
Well, that's kind of sloppiness on somebody's part, because if you're going to go through all the effort to clean it up, you could just wipe those out real quick.
It's easy to do.
Yeah.
It gets tedious because you're doing frame by frame, but it's easy to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of want to see this one cleaned up. Now, just out of curiosity, I kind of
Actually, yeah, I think you're right.
I'll see what I can do. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah.
And I can tweak some sound stuff, although I don't want to get rid of that soundtrack.
Oh my god. So you go into the lab and the psh psh, that gives me life. I love that so hard. The first time I saw that, I thought there was something wrong with the soundtrack, or like someone had added like sometimes you'll see like horror hosts will add like sounds and stuff to make it sound goofy. I thought that's what that was, and then I kept watching all these different versions, and it was always there, and I'm like, this is amazing. Psh, psh.
That's awesome. I was referring more to the music that just plays on a ridiculous loop over and over and over again. I don't know anything about the composer Hoyt Curtin, but man, he loved that riff. Or he didn't get paid very much, so they just have the one piece of music to play over and over and over again.
It's possible both.
That's true.
You don't pay guys very well when they're not very good.
Oh man, we're gonna have fun talking about this one. It's no Carnival of Souls, folks.
No, not.
My approach on Monster Kid Radio, Dominique knows this. Y'all know this. I try not to belittle a movie or drag a movie. I do believe that every movie is somebody's favorite, but there's also honesty when it comes to a movie like this. That, you know, Godzilla bless him for trying to come up with a film and putting something together, feature length like that. That's more than I've ever done. But man.
Well, here's my whole thing. I think I've discussed it probably on this show before. Just because you love something doesn't mean you're blind to its faults.
Yeah.
There's this movie I absolutely adore. I have no idea why I absolutely adore this. The Wild Wild World of Batwoman. Oh my god, I love that movie so much.
It's great.
It offends one-celled animals, but it's oh my god. There's nothing about that movie that isn't terrible and offensive, but I love it. And you can love things and acknowledge that they're not perfect.
Sure.
And this is, I think, because I actually think this movie has a lot more going for it than people give it credit for. And actually, in a lot of ways, when I was sitting and watching this again before we recorded, I think classing it with Manos is not out of line. Okay, I don't know if we've ever discussed this, but okay. So, I don't like Manos.
Right.
And the reason I do not like Manos is because for me, it is so screwed up, it is frightening. It is a legitimately disturbing movie to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you're willing to look at Mesa of Lost Women, not just as, look at all this goopy stuff that's stupid, if, again, that's where the nightmare logic comes in. You take it on its own terms and you let it adhere to its own little world and its own little rules. It is kind of a frightening movie. In particular, because a lot of people just slam. He is...
Harmon Stevens.
People just kind of like dismiss his performance as being weird and kind of stupid, and it's not. Because he's playing a homicidal psychopath. He's not on the same mental plane as the rest of the world. He's got his own thing, he's doing his own thing, and the character is consistent.
That's true. Yeah.
He is always like that. He's very childish because he's blocking emotions from the things that he's seen. And just the way he talks, because the way he talks is a lot of what gets me. Because there's an interesting thing that's done in this movie with the way the crazy people talk.
Okay.
Because it starts with Jackie Coogan. Did you listen to Jackie Coogan when he's talking? And his voice is almost monotone. He'll go along and he'll use the same tone, and then he'll emphasize a word here and there, and then it goes back down. And it emphasizes a word here and there, and then it goes back down.
Okay.
And it's off-putting. It's not like you can really put your finger on what's disturbing about it. It's just, that's not normal. And Mesa of Lost Women hits that a lot. And Masterson's character, Masterson, is like that as well. Because he talks with the same rhythm every time. And he's quoting the Bible, and his word talking is very simplistic. You're good, I'm going to protect you. You're evil, don't make me kill you. And it's very simplistic and it's very childlike, but coming from someone like that, it is that much more disturbing.
I could see that. Or hear that.
Yeah.
Within the course of how long we've been recording, Dominique has just added a bunch of depth to this film. You posted about this on Facebook, and I can't remember what prompted that.
I was watching it.
It was just happened to be on.
I saw it on Comet TV at like 2 a.m. and I was just like, it's one of those movies that I see it on and I have to watch it.
How long has this movie been something that you feel that, I mean, when did you first see it? Do you have any like specific memories attached to it?
No. I actually cannot remember when I first saw this movie. I can't. And it's weird because the movies that I associate with nightmare logic, I can never remember that kind of stuff. I cannot remember the first time I saw Carnival of Souls. I can't remember the first time I saw Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
I still haven't seen that.
That is the perfect nightmare logic double feature is Carnival of Souls and Let's Scare Jessica to Death.
Really?
That movie is amazing.
Okay. I'll have to give it a watch.
Yeah.
Well, you came prepared. You've got notes.
My memory isn't what it used to be, so I had to write stuff down so I remember to talk about it. But yeah.
I'm not trying to like read your notes and skip ahead, but I do like the very first thing you have there, the WTF opening.
Oh my God. The narrations for this, like, okay, because here's another reason I love this movie. Because there's this like Ed Wood style earnestness to this movie. Because there's actually a ton of Ed Wood connections to this movie.
Well, like the narrator.
Yeah. And also, he's one of our Batman connections, because this movie has a bunch of Batman connections. Lyle Talbot was the narrator. And Lyle Talbot played Commissioner Gordon in the movie serials.
Oh, okay. All right. And Dominique's a huge Batman fan, too, so that's cool.
Exactly.
All right.
And he does, like, the perfect evil voice. Like, one of the things I love about the narrations, both at the beginning and the end, which, honestly, like, I love the way Lyle Talbot does it, but they could have been Criswell. They absolutely could have been Criswell. Is, like, I don't know, like, if Ron Ormond or somebody wrote them, but they just ooze with this contempt for humanity.
Oh, yeah.
Humanity is horrible, and it sucks, and it's awful. And they're stupid, and oh my God, it's amazing.
There's a lot of emotion behind that narration.
Yes.
I know this movie gets a lot of grief for the narration. They just did it to kill time, or they didn't want to do dialogue or whatever. But there's really a lot of contempts and I would say anger almost.
Yeah.
Just kind of simmering through that whole thing.
Yeah.
It's a weird choice, but it really sets the movie up for exactly what it is, I feel like.
I don't know how much you know about the making of this movie.
Not very much.
So it was made in, I want to say 51. And it was, the original movie was, Masterson was a psychopath and he hijacked these people on this plane and it crashed and they had to get saved. That was the movie. And then apparently the director was a butthead and nobody liked him and the money ran out and everybody was like, this sucks, we're not doing it. So then years later, Ron Ormond was like, you know what? Spider-Women and Jackie Coogan acting weird. Bam, I fixed it.
I fixed it. I just did air quotes. Fixed it.
So, but you had to have the narration in order to tie in the Jackie Coogan stuff with that. And that, for the Jackie Coogan character, that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So, because also it explains why the Jackie Coogan character is there.
I love Ed Wood. I love Malos, even though, and I love these movies that have this full on, they did everything they possibly could to get this movie made one way or the other, by hook or by crook, DIY, whatever they had to do. So I love hearing stories like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know much about the production of this, so I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Having heard that makes perfect sense. Of course it started out as something else.
Yeah.
And of course the narration was used to kind of fill in whatever gaps they couldn't get around to shoot or whatever.
Because, you notice you don't see, for the bulk of the movie, you don't see the spider people in with the people on the plane.
Yeah.
Because there were two separate movies.
It's a complete break. It's a complete break there. You're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I had it on this morning, I was poking around in the kitchen or whatever, and I left to come to the kitchen to start making coffee. Spider-Woman's on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Come back and talking about a dance club. They're doing, it's like, what?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Because, apparently the dancer was just some dancer, and Masterson freaked out and shot her, and that was when they hijacked the plane.
Sure. That makes perfect sense. I'm glad they had that moment at the end, though. Hey, that's the dancer from the club.
Yeah, right? Right? Well, it also explains, because one of the moments where even I was like, really? Was they're in the club, and he sees the dancer, and he's not freaking out. He's just like, whatever, I want to shoot her. Whereas, that was part of his trauma of being trapped in this lab with spider women, and he's not freaking out about that. And it's like, okay, if you two separate movies, I get what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I can't hear the Lyle Talbot narration in my head without that music behind it. Just
the other Ed Wood connection, apparently that movie was used in Jailbait, or that music was used in Jailbait as well.
Oh man.
And another Ed Wood connection, one of the spider women that we get the close-up headshot of is Dolores Fuller.
Dolores Fuller? She's in this?
Yes, she's one of the spider women.
Oh man. This movie just gets more and more interesting to me the more we talk about it.
You see? This is what I'm on about.
Wow. I had no idea. I was going to challenge you to not make you, but I was going to ask you to make me like this movie, but you've already done it. Like this movie more anyway. I had no idea she was in this.
Because also, I mentioned the Wild Wild World of Batwoman earlier.
Yeah.
Catherine Victor was the chauffeur who drove Leland to the lab at the beginning. That's Batwoman. It's the own little bad movie world where we have Ed Wood and Jerry Warren and these other people all coming together in the Mesa of Lost Women.
I'm scrolling through the cast list right now. Why does this name look familiar to me?
And see, that's another Batman connection, because the guy who plays George, psychiatric nurse, was one of Catwoman's henchmen in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
And actually, because he was Romian.
That's him, George Barrows. Yep.
Yeah. And it looks like he was a gorilla suit guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why the name was ringing a bell.
Yeah.
Normally I would know that, listeners, off the top of my head, but this movie has nightmare logic. It messed me up. So, wow, what? Okay, there needs to, maybe there is, and I don't know, but there needs to be like a book written about this movie and all, not just like how it was made. That's cool. That's weird. It feels like it's almost a hub of all this stuff kind of Here's the Ed Wood stuff. Here's this stuff. There's Batwoman creepy.
It's the weird confluence of all these like 50s B movie people who came together in the Mesa of Lost Women.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
I have a little bit more respect for it.
Yep.
A little bit more respect for it. What else do you want to talk about in here? I'm curious now. Please guide me through this film.
I'm going to talk about this, obviously. The makeup and the costumes.
Yes.
So, okay, because basically you have to kind of look at this movie also as an attempt to remake The Island of Lost Souls.
A lot of that through this, yeah.
But, the cheapness actually feeds into the surrealness and the nightmare logic of it. And one of my favorite examples of this is actually the wigs and the costumes that the Spider Women wear. Because they look terrible. I mean, they're like weird and crusty and they don't look right. But that adds to the surrealness. There's almost this like uncanny, like that doesn't look right.
Yeah. Wednesday has a lot to say. I don't know if you guys and gals will hear that on the recording, but Wednesday is here and she's very talkative tonight. She's showing off for Dominique. Well, the wardrobe guy was Oscar Rodriguez. I know nothing about him. I'm looking at his credit list, and I mean, he did some cheap stuff. Teenage Werewolf, How to Make a Monster. Looks like he was an AIP guy.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely tell there was no money because the women's costumes is basically just fabric draped over them. It barely looks sewn.
Very monos.
Yeah,
Very
exactly.
monos. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, just that again, with monos, there's that sense of, okay, you'll have to beep this, but we're singing it, and that is what makes it disturbing. And then there's that element of this here. Because interestingly, I don't know why they seem to do this, or if it's just like one of those things that would get fixed and when somebody cleaned it up. But Jackie Coogan's character wears the glasses with one dirty lens and one clean lens. Now, the thing is, in some beliefs, that is the symbol of somebody who can view two worlds.
I've not heard this. Okay.
So seriously, because if you have, especially like in voodoo, the god of death, where it has one smoked lens and one.
Okay. I see where you go. Okay.
Because yeah, he's kind of in our world, and he's kind of off in his own little scientific world under the mountain doing his own little thing.
Okay.
So there's like little touches like that like seem kind of stupid and lazy, but actually, again, if you look, okay, maybe I'm reading into stuff.
I'm gonna say, do you think that was intentional?
No, I don't think that was intentional. But
I wish this was a video podcast where what she just gave it.
Great stuff can happen accidentally.
Yeah.
So, and that doesn't make it any less. I mean, especially because the way Jackie Coogan acts is, again, an interesting thing because he does this weird thing where he's super focused. And there's a couple times where Leland will, like, the psycho guy, before he's psycho, will come into the lab and he'll start talking about something that's, practical. Oh, you don't have the money for this, or nobody's going to accept this. And there's this really childlike way that Jackie Coogan's character, Aramia, just shuts him down and literally turns and walks away. That's not me. I don't have anything to do with that. I'm doing this. We're talking about this one thing. Okay. I love this story. I used to work in a Joann's.
Okay.
And one day we got Doctor Who fabric. It was back when we first got Doctor Who fabric. Everybody was coming in for Doctor Who fabric. And we had this lady and her 5-year-old son. And they're buying all the Doctor Who fabric. And the kid comes up and he's going 90 miles an hour. Doctor Who and Dave, that's my favorite doctor. And then he stops and he looks at me and he goes, "Who's your favorite doctor?" And I look at him and I say, "Well, I don't really like Doctor Who." The kid literally stares at me for a beat, turns around and walks off. That is Aramia in this movie.
Okay.
Like, I don't get you. I don't get you. You're not talking about something that I relate to by being practical and stuff. So I'm done. Walk away.
So for a second there, when you're telling me that story, I thought you were going to say Peter Cushing was your favorite Who, just knowing you, but
I don't like Doctor Who. So
no.
as much as I would like a Doctor Who, Peter Cushing is my favorite, but
I've got the movies on Blu-ray if you want to watch them later.
yeah, I've seen them. They're Doctor Who.
Not to derail too much. I'm not a
Yeah.
movie either. I just not for any other reason other than I've never really bothered. So
I'll probably end up with them at some point too, because Peter Cushing.
Yep.
It's Doctor Who. Sorry, everybody. I'm not really a sci-fi person. So
yeah.
yeah.
No, you're more into, more classy entertainment like Mesa of Lost Women.
Pure class, baby. Pure class.
I did like Dr. Aramia, and I don't know if it's because maybe I need to watch the movie as much as you have, because I didn't pick up on some of this stuff. It makes sense, and it kind of works on a level that, subconsciously, I suppose. I like him as a mad scientist villain type.
Yeah.
He's great,
He was really
but I
good.
never really sat down to kind of figure out why. So, interesting.
Yeah.
So when I clean my glasses next time, I'm going to leave one side dirty.
Keep
so
one
I can
side dirty.
See the other side.
That's right. Wendy, yeah, if we're talking about weird and unsettling and just off, we have to talk about Wu the Shady Butler. Wu the shady Asian stereotype butler.
What was his deal? Like, what? Why? This?
I'm pretty sure his deal was racism.
Well, yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's 95% of what the character was.
This weird kind of remaining yellow peril stuff kind of creeping in. I don't.
Yeah. Looking at the movie, I have no idea what the function of that character was.
And they kept anytime something went bad, they kept cutting to him.
Right? And his
whether it had anything to do with it or not.
And his random fortune cookie one-liners. Because that added to it for me, because you've got Masterson off in the corner muttering about good and evil in a childlike voice, and then this guy who's supposed to be this wise Chinese dude spouting out these faux philosophical one-liners. And it gets to this point where it's that's nightmare logic. You're watching this and you're going, why is any of this happening? Why are these people doing this? Why are these people going along with it? Masterson has a gun. And there's 6 other people. We're just going to go along with the guy with the gun. Come on, y'all. Come on. And I love how, the whole time Wu was evil and Wu was betraying him, but we never actually get to that point.
Right.
In the story, and he dies, and everybody's like, oh my God, you killed the evil Chinese guy that we didn't know was evil. You're evil.
It was weird. Yeah. I'm guessing the original vision of the movie had more there. I don't know.
Or didn't have Wu being evil.
Right.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah. That makes more sense.
Yeah.
That's the easier.
Yeah.
Because anytime something goes bad, anything that's ominous or foreboding, insert close up of Wu for no reason.
No reason.
Just the Asian guy.
Exactly. And the thing was that it was it was the close-up of Wu, but he was doing that little shady smile and nod thing.
Right.
Come on, dude.
Which, yeah, I mean, come on.
He didn't do all of this, okay?
Yep.
Yeah. And the stuff he says doesn't even really mean anything, and it doesn't actually pertain to the situation they're in half the time.
Yeah,
he just spouts stuff because he thinks it sounds smart. Which, I'm not gonna lie, I know people like that. Asian or not, I know people like that.
Yeah, say.
Oh my God, here's the other scene we have to think about.
Okay.
I gotta talk about it. This is another one of those. Of course she's gonna talk about it. Let's talk about the little scene with the woman and the pilot around the fire. Yep, and if you could see the look that Derek just gave me. Oh my God. So this scene right here is why men should not be allowed to write romantic scenes.
That's awfully broad. I don't know. I imagine it's hard to do correctly. I don't know.
Yeah, apparently it is. Because we go back and forth between her just being all he accuses her of all these nasty things, which, mind you, are true, that she doesn't love this guy, but she's marrying him anyway. And and it's just for security, and it's wrong because she should love somebody. And I'm like, dude, this is the 50s. Everybody married somebody for that.
Yeah.
That's the vast majority of human history was people marrying each other for security, not because they loved each other. So, I mean, what? And then she comes on to him, and he's all like, I can't believe you did that. I'm like, dude, you totally were doing it back, but okay.
Yeah, you did read the script. You did see, like, earlier all this, yeah.
Yeah. And like because all the times before that, they're like making a maze at each other and all this stuff. And like, okay, now she actually moves on, and you're like, no.
Right.
Oh my God.
I don't necessarily go into movies of this ilk looking for these deep, well-written, well-woven human connection stories.
Right?
Which is probably a good thing, because you're not going to get them in most of these movies. That's not to say you can't have, relationships or whatever, but in a movie like this, yeah.
There's it. Like, okay, you got, we've talked about the creature from the Black Lagoon, and the whole scene with Kay and her associate, and like every once in a while it creeps in, it slips in, and it's like, oh, this is brilliant.
Yep.
But you have far more of these kind of scenes where the scene goes back and forth between her being good and her being bad, and him being bad and him being good, and dead, like, so many times in just like, and it's like a 2-minute scene, and you get whiplash. It's just like, oh my God, back and forth and back and forth. Just like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Yeah, what do you think? Okay. I'm now holding Wednesday.
All is right with the world.
Yeah. What do you think? Okay. I got totally derailed and distracted by my cat.
Yeah, that's what happens.
Everybody pay attention to me. Do you know anything about the filmmakers of this? Like, did they do anything else?
Well, the original director, Tevos.
Yeah. Oh, Herbert, that's it. That's it.
Apparently, this is his only official film credit, but there was a point where he claims he directed The Blue Angel. As in, like, the film with Marlene Dietrich and...
Really?
Yummies. Yeah. He says he created it, and everybody's like, no, you did.
All right.
This is the only movie that we ever know he had anything to do with, apparently.
Huh. Yeah, I pulled up. Who am I looking at right now? The other guy, Ron Ormond. Doesn't look like he did a lot of genre stuff. I mean, I don't know what most of these movies are, but they're not striking me as, monster movies, horror movies, whatever.
Is it Teensploitation or something?
I'm seeing some of that. I mean, we got like a White Lightning Road. So it's a Cars and Barnyard Babes is what the poster. I want that poster for my wall. Popped up Cars and Barnyard Babes. Something called Please Don't Touch Me. He produced. Yeah, these look a little more exploitive than anything else.
Okay. He was probably a money-making guy.
Which, I mean, there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
That's, that's the thing.
That's what Corman was.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't recognize much of this. So this just seems like a weird anomaly that all these different things kind of came together and made this movie that really motivates Dominique to talk about it online, which, which is great. I mean, I one of the things I love about MKR, about Monster Kid Radios, I mean, you get all these people on the show that, have a love or a passion or a fascination for a movie that I have not really given a lot of attention to. This is a movie that I've shown on the stream. I'm pretty sure. I think you said I probably played it a couple of times, but I've never really paid close attention to it. In fact, I a lot of times mix this one up with the one with Tor Johnson, the name that I'm blanking on, where he's wandering around the desert.
Oh, Yucca Flats.
Yeah, I mix this one up with Yucca Flats sometimes. In fact, when I put it on this morning, I was like, "Where's Tor Johnson?" Oh, wait a minute. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I've never really given this movie its due, I guess. I don't know if it ever has been given its due, because it sounds like there's some really cool stuff in this. We should write a book. We should write a book about this.
It's an acquired taste.
Well,
it is. It's not an easy movie to love. It's not.
It does a lot to try to keep people away from it.
Yeah.
That score, that music, that loop, over and over and over again. And I think you're right. And I really don't want to watch Jailbait again to confirm, but I think you're right. Jailbait's not one of my favorite Ed Wood films.
No, it's not.
It's the random insert of the blackface performance takes me completely out of it. Even not that I was into it to begin with.
Yeah.
Ugh. No blackface in this one though.
No, definitely no blackface in this.
Just the stereotypical kind of sort of maybe he's evil Asian.
Yeah.
What did you think of the big spider thing?
I thought it was cute.
Did you want to hug it?
I did want to hug it.
That still comes up in the chat. That still comes up in the stream. Whenever I'm watching a movie, the Monster Kid Movie Club, and there's a monster, somebody every once in a while will say, what if Dominique would want to hug this one? Oh, man.
Well, yeah, I noticed yesterday you were showing the Beast from Haunted Cave.
Yes.
And yeah, Huntress is definitely, I love Huntress so bad.
Yeah, Beast from Haunted Cave. I actually did a little bit of work on it to clean it up a little bit. And I might go to do some more audio work. And here's a plug for the Patreon. Once it's done, I'm going to make it available to the folks at the midnight movie level or higher to go watch on YouTube and unlisted links. So if that's something you're interested in seeing, you'll want to give me money, I guess. That's the awkward part of this whole thing. I'm not good at that.
Pay me for my service, please.
I'm not good at that. I'm not good at that at all. Because really, I sit around and watch movies like this, like Mesa of Lost Women or Yucca Flats or even Jailbait every once in a while for free. Because, I mean, I love this stuff.
Yeah.
And man, if you really love these movies, I think you're right. You've converted me. You've got me really liking this movie more than I did before we sat down.
Yeah. It's one of those movies that you got to be willing to put aside the stupidity.
But you would watch this one over at Monos anytime.
Well, again,
Monos gets you in a weird way, though.
I don't dislike Monos because it's a bad movie. I dislike Monos because I find it disturbing. So that it's a completely different class. I don't find this movie disturbing.
Okay. Would you double feature this with Carnival of Lost Souls?
No, you know what? Okay, you ready for this?
Uh-oh.
I would double feature this with The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari if I was high.
Okay. You're talking about the original, the original Black. Okay, well, the silent film. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, because that one's a mess. I mean, in a great way.
I mean, okay, I don't know if we've ever had the discussion, but I have watched Cabinet of Dr. Caligari high.
Okay.
And oh my God, I saw the universe expanding. That movie is insane when you're high. So between like that and then just the Mesa of Lost Women, because it feels like Caligari would take you up and Mesa of Lost Women takes you down.
Okay. All right.
And yeah.
Okay. So I'm not going to ask her when she had this experience, but for the record, it is legal over again. So just insane.
Actually, it was pain pills after dental surgery.
Hot.
So yes, it was legal, but
okay. All right.
It was. I got my wisdom teeth out, so they gave me the really strong stuff.
First time I saw Clockwork Orange, I was hallucinating because I was having a really bad flu degree of like 105, 106.
Fever hallucination.
Dude, that movie messed me
Yep.
up so bad.
Oh my God, absolutely.
It's forever tainted my experience with that film because of it.
Yeah.
I can't watch it now without feeling very off-put.
Mm-hmm. You know what I would just straight pair Mesa of Lost Women with? The Incredibly Strange Creatures Who Stopped Living and Became Mixed Up Zombies.
Well, that title, really, you mix the two up. Not mix them, but...
Yeah. Because it's the same suspension of disbelief. Just go with it. It's craziness.
Rene Steckler is another one of those filmmakers. He made movies, and maybe they weren't the greatest, but he made enough to keep going, and I got a lot of respect for him.
Yeah.
Some of his later outputs gets a little on the skeevy side, but, Incredibly Strange Creatures. I don't think I've ever talked about proper on the show. Should. I talked about it on Mail Order Zombie years ago. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've talked about it on here. I know Jeff's shown it at the Joyce Cinema.
A couple times, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think I saw it there once.
Yeah.
Because that's the Nightmare Logic movie right there. I actually just watched that one last night, too.
Huh. I haven't seen it in forever. I need to see Rat Fake a Boo Boo again, so I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, you always need to see that one again.
Yeah. Listeners, if you haven't seen Rat Finka Boo Boo, I don't know how this conversation is. So, yes, I do, because we pretty much said all we wanted to say. But Rat Finka Boo Boo, awesome kind of sort of superhero movie.
Seriously. Legit.
Superheroes have one weakness: bullets. It's my favorite part of the whole movie. Well, that and when they supposedly have a parade for the superheroes. They just waited for a parade to go through town and decided to walk in it and get footage and then leave.
Guerrilla filmmaking, folks.
I love that stuff so much. And now that I'm going to be getting back into it this year, I look at that and I was like, inspiration. I'm going to make my my co-producer sit down and watch this movie, Mesa of Lost Women. You hear that, Matt and Mike? You've got a treat in store for you. Oh, wow. I'm so glad you came up. I know now that I live in Vancouver, I'm kind of detached from a lot of the Portland area stuff that I was doing. So I know it's not always going to be easy to have people come up to my place, but I'm really glad you are the first person that I've had over to, record anything with and, hang out for an extended period of time. One of the first people to do that. And that's awesome. I'm sorry that we haven't connected very much lately, but, COVID, move, divorce, relationship, end of relationship, everything else in the world. But this was awesome, and it means a lot to me, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And go buy her monsters.
Take a tingler home, which sounds way dirtier than I actually need it.
I was trying to come up with a way to make it sound kind of weird, but you did it for me.
Coming to this theater soon, The Beast of Yucca Flats. Filmed on the burning hot sands by Yucca Flats. See terror, panic, murder. See the Cardoza and Francis production of The Beast of Yucca Flats. See a man turn killer. See a woman ravaged. See one of the most exciting movies ever made. See The Beast of Yucca Flats.
Look, then run for your life. Incredible is the word for the world's first monster musical. See in magnificent Eastman color, the daring, dancing, enticing, and horrifying. The incredibly strange creatures who stopped living and became mixed-up zombies. From the innocence of music and laughter comes the twilight of terror. Along the midway, scantily clad dancers luring the young lovers into the sideshows.
She gets her shit out of shape.
See the dancing girls of the carnival murdered by the incredible night creatures of the midway.
I only know that something evil lies ahead for me.
An unspeakable pit of dismal subhuman monsters who drool and gibber, moaning for the thrill of revenge. Incredible are the songs, the gaiety, the zombie stomp of those who will stop living. And then the mix-up, trickery, and the device to ruin. See the hunchback of the midway fight a duel of death with the mixed-up zombies. Turning men into monsters, twisted, tormented human vultures. Yearning to kill. Incredible creatures clutching at the thin thread of their miserable lives. Human vultures, only the weird zombies remain.
Obey.
Who is the woman branded in birth wearing the wart of horror?
Do as Madame Estrella said.
The world's first monster musical. The incredibly strange creatures who stopped living and became mixed-up zombies.
Ratfink and Boo Boo, masked men dedicated to fight crime and preserve justice.
Look, Boo Boo, young lady in distress.
Won't somebody help me?
Me first, Ratfink.
Go, Boo Boo. I'll park the rat sickle.
Oh, take that, Mr. Crook.
Oh!
Why not fight someone your own size, fella?
Ah! Help me! Won't somebody please help me?
The Ratfink will. Ape, drop that girl.
You hurt me, you big ape!
Take that, Ape.
Rat Fink and Boo Boo, the leaders of today, building the leaders of tomorrow.
And I want all you young people to grow up to be good American citizens. Remember, your country needs you.
Rat Fink, you're the greatest.
Rat Fink and Boo Boo are coming.
You've reached the end of this episode of Monster Kid Radio. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate everybody's patience as I still kind of work out my schedule in terms of when things are coming out. Trying real hard to move it up so that it doesn't happen on a Friday night. But, you know, life is happening. Life continues to happen. Life will happen. And life just has a way of getting in the way of all the stuff that I really want to do, like putting out a podcast on a regular, consistent schedule. So thank you for sticking around and still downloading and still listening and still interacting with the show. Also, big thanks to everybody who contributes to the show, like our man Kenny, or one of my favorite Marks. I love that they both contribute to the show, such top quality content. I'm enjoying the heck out of it. So thank you to the both of them as well. And speaking of Mark, and I'm sorry that I haven't mentioned this beforehand, and I know there's such a limited amount of time left. By the time you listen to this, it may even be too late. However, if you listen to this within the next, say, 16 hours of it going live, you can go and check out the Kickstarter for Small Town Monsters, which is the production, I guess it's a production company, production group that Mark is involved with. They check out cryptids, they check out legends like Bigfoot, UFOs, werewolves, the Jersey Devil, all sorts of cool stuff. And they've got a Kickstarter going right now to get an entire season of Small Town Monsters productions up and running. Now, they've already met their goal, but wouldn't it be nice if they could blow that goal out of the water? And I know a lot of you are interested in this kind of stuff, so I want to just throw a little bit of light on the Small Town Monsters Kickstarter. Link in the show notes over at monsterkidradio.net, where you're going to find links to everything we've talked about in this episode of the podcast, including a link to the House of Silent Graves, which is Dominique Lamssies' Etsy shop. Now, she has a number of monsters that have already been built that she really would like to unload so that she doesn't have to pack them up when she goes on her move, which is coming up here soon. So go check that out. Let her know that Monster Kid Radio sent you. And like I said, link in the show notes. Also a link in the show notes to our Twitter, our Facebook page, our Facebook group, our Discord, our Reddit, our Patreon. What else? Oh, our Twitch. Make sure you check us out at twitch.tv/monsterkidradio. We show movies every Saturday and Tuesday, and we would love to have you be part of that screening and conversation. It's the one time I'm going to encourage you to talk during the movies, so come check that out. What's coming up next week here on the show? Not 100% sure. Once again, we're kind of going into the week not knowing what we're doing next week. However, I'd really like to record with my man Steve Sullivan and lay down some audio for the Monster Rally Retro Awards, or the rallies as we call them. So fingers and tentacles crossed, we can make that happen and finally pull the trigger on that episode. It's been pushed back 1 week, and then the next week we were supposed to do it. I just wasn't prepared enough, so Steve and I just kind of hung out. So hopefully I can get all of my monsters in a row and we'll make that episode happen. If not, I'll come up with something else, I'm sure. Stay tuned, though. I typically announce what's happening on the podcast first on the stream on Saturday over on Twitch, and then I start talking about it on social media as well. Once again, big thanks to the band, the Hang 10 Hangmen, for letting us play their music here on the show. Monster Kid Radio is a registered service mark of Monster Kid Radio, LLC. All original content of Monster Kid Radio by Monster Kid Radio, LLC is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 unported license. Of course, that doesn't apply to the song The Incredible Hip Shaker. That belongs to the Hang 10 Hangmen, copyright 2018. You can find the song on their album This Is Boss, which you can find at the hang10hangmen.bandcamp.com. Buy the entire digital album for $8. There's 11 songs on there. That's less than $1 a song. I dig all the songs, but for whatever reason, this song, The Incredible Hip Shaker, spoke to me for this week's episode. My name is Derek M. Cook. I'll talk to everybody next week. Ciao.